And yeah, we are live in both.
There you go.
So while people are tuning in, let's just introduce ourselves. So I'll start. I'm Kay Hall. I use he, him pronouns, and I was the stage manager and set and lighting designer for this rendition of Ghost, and I use he, him pronouns. So Deidre, do you want to follow me up?
Okay. Hi, I am Deidre Solange Lannister. I use she, her pronouns, and I was the creator, performer, and producer for this rendition of Ghost Return to Mourning. Yeah.
And Marshall, why don't you go next?
Mm-hmm. Hi, everyone. Marshall Vial here. I stage and directed the show. Yeah, and I also use they, them, or he, him.
Thanks. Nick, you're up.
Everyone, my name is Nick Foley. I use he, him pronouns, and I was a big part in the production of the music and development and writing of the music, as well as the videography that you may have seen on YouTube.
Fantastic. I'm going to start off with some questions that we already have. And then for people viewing, you can ask questions in the comments or just sit back and learn about the process.
Yeah. Before we begin, I just personally want to thank you all for being here and recognize that this is taking place on Treaty 7 territories. So I just want to put that in there that, wow, I haven't prepared for this as much as I should have. I feel so bad. Okay, Treaty 7 territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, including Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, the Nakoda nations, and the Stony Nakoda, isn't it? Oh no. Yes.
Yes, Stony Nakoda.
Tsuut'ina?
And Tsuut'ina.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, team. And Metis Region 3. So hi, I just want to thank the original peoples for allowing us to create and perform and live on these lands. Without them, we wouldn't be here. So
Yeah, you're welcome.
that's true. Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marshall.
Let's start us off with questions. Deidre, this one's for you. What is the best part and what is the most challenging part of creating a show that is based off of your life and you have a very personal connection to?
Okay. Let's go off the best part. I think the best part about creating a show based off my own life is that it hasn't been written before, so I don't really believe that there is any wrong way I could write it. When we were going into rehearsals and character work, and I was getting nervous to perform after so many months not performing, Marshall told me that the great thing about it being a show I wrote is no one will know if I mess up my own monologues, and I know my own story, so I really shouldn't be freaking out as much as I did. And also I shouldn't be complaining because I wrote the words. But I think that's the best thing about creating your own stuff is that there's just no wrong answer. It's just a trial and error type thing, constantly evolving, and there's room for it to evolve. So I feel like even though this rendition was pretty official, the show can change and grow and evolve in the future to even newer, better heights. There's no restrictions there really, but no expectations either. And one negative thing is probably, yeah, I would say it's revealing personal traumas for viewership. There's a purpose to it, but unless it's done carefully, there were moments when I overextended or exerted myself that was at times unhealthy. So I think the most negative thing about telling your own life story, is that if not done carefully and with respect, it could easily go to a more negative and healthy performance art that doesn't really serve a purpose, and if anything, just trying to find the right word, but it's like it would there is oftentimes it could become more vampiric in nature, in that it takes a lot from me but gives me nothing in return, and that's just like a balancing act. Yeah.
Marshall, question for you. What is it like to direct something to be filmed when you've already directed a previous rendition that was live? What's it like to adjust to that difference?
Well, I mean, it's a huge adjustment because like I felt like when we attacked this show for the first time, it was all about like how can we really like immerse the audience in this space, right? Because we were sharing space with an actual audience and stuff. We did it for the Ignite last year, which is largely for emerging artists and stuff. And so my biggest goal then was to really showcase the emerging artists that Deeds is and stuff. But when you kind of like move everything to film, you really have to be even more aware of a lot of the smaller things, right? Like I feel like it's all of the minute stuff that you really have to worry about, because I feel like on stage you can hide a lot from the audience, but you can't really hide anything from the camera because it sees everything. Which is interesting, especially when you're filming it from like, you know, 4 different angles and stuff. Everything is being seen in the round and stuff. And so really having to go from creating this like big sort of movement montage throughout the entire show and having to kind of scale that back and creating something that's more intimate, that I think allows us to connect with not everybody in the room, but you know, everybody on the net and stuff.
Thank you. Nick, you're up. What's it like as a music producer to start off a music process with someone else's text already as a jumping off point? How is that different from how you usually create?
Yeah, usually when I write my own music, I tend to start with the musical side of things. Like I tend to write like a riff or a piano line or something, and then it kind of leads me to the feelings that music has. So often, and I have written the other way around, I have written songs lyrically first and then, you know, engineered music into it. But I've always found that I find the feeling first. So it was interesting to go that route, and to have, you know, Deeds' words be the precedent for everything. The first time that we jammed on all of this stuff was a song called Bigs, right? Deeds,
Mm-hmm.
that was our first work together. And that was us like getting together while we were still in university and like meeting up and working on this song about her dad, which is in the show. And so it was kind of a musical journey at the same time as a lyrical journey, because that day when we first made that first song, Deeds had an idea of some of the notes she wanted written down in her book. And so I followed that a little bit, and we just kind of tweaked things as we went. So the first one wasn't too hard, but the other 4 that we did, those were primarily focused initially on the lyric. So it was about finding like what the tone and the theme of things was, and then kind of more coming at it in a cinematic function where I would try and find the tone of the script, you know, like in that sense, or do it more as if I was a composer rather than a producer. And I think it works both ways as a producer or a composer, but when we were working with Deeds' lyrics, there was like a pretty consistent tone that ended up following through with the names of the songs. It's very like raw and dark and haunting and ominous. And so a lot of those sounds bled in to the initial work. And as that kind of came to be and those feelings started to get explored more, it just started to evolve, and we massaged it with new sounds that highlighted different moments and tailored some of the lyrical melody to, you know, heighten at different points and whatnot. So it was just like a massaging process throughout the whole time to get the songs done. And then once we had it recorded at the end of September, I spent like, you know, a good half a month straight working on editing and developing what we had, and that's what we ended up with.
Awesome. Question for everyone, because this is the same team that worked on this project during Ignite.
Mhm.
I just want to ask everyone what they feel like the absolute biggest difference was in working on this show for Ignite and working on this show in 2020 in the state that the world is in.
Oh, let me think on this for a second.
Yeah.
Marshall?
Yeah, I can share. I think just like it's so funny because I think because we were kind of creating something for film, I felt like a lot of the stakes were higher in that, like, this is something that would live on, you know, this tape that we have, it's going to outlive us all, right? And there's something really great about that, but there's also something really you know, daunting about that and stuff. And so I think when we did it the first time, there was a lot of like, this is the first time that this show is ever going to be up, and this is the first time that a lot of these words are being shared. And so I felt like we didn't really have anything to base it off of. It was just us putting this story together and sharing these words and sharing these songs and stuff. Whereas I felt this time it was like, okay, the stakes are a little bit higher now that we kind of, this whole show is going to be immortalized, you know, through you know, being able to watch it online and stuff. And so I felt like there was, although the stakes were high, I felt like there was a ton of braveness attached to it as well. I felt like the first time that we did it, we kind of, it's so funny because it was only a year ago, but it's amazing at how much I think the show itself has aged in a year, and the writing has aged in a year, and how far it's come in the past year. Because I feel like at the first time it was like, I don't even think it was done being written until maybe tech last year.
I think we got
And
one
so,
of the songs the day before we were performing.
and so a lot of it was like, just like us kind of not scrambling to put everything together, but I felt like we were in like this real, like, raw, like, let's all just like put our guns together and like create a really awesome thing. Whereas I felt like this time we had a lot more time. But because of that time that we were allotted, there was a lot of braveness there that was attached to it. And it was nice, I think, to see some of the elements of the storytelling that we did last summer, and it was nice to see how we could like evolve those into this more mature show.
Yeah, just like jumping off that, when I think about the major difference is time. So the first rendition for Ignite, firstly, the script wasn't written yet. We only had the song Bigs and the spoken word piece. That's about it. And we had 1 month to produce, write, get all the components in order. Nick was given the spoken word piece and was like, hey, we need 3 other songs. Also, I can't be with you in the studio because I have to be here writing and rehearsing for the monologue. So Nick was like, I'm obviously paraphrasing. I can't speak for Nick. But Nick was like, cool, I'll do something with these 3 words. Let's see what happens. And I just remember, the thing is, like, because it was pre-pandemic, I had the support of Kay being alongside me the entire way, before rehearsals and before getting the songs, and was able to have that closeness and just work with someone every day, even if we weren't complete. So I just remember Nick sending tracks of music that I had to learn in like a day or two. And then I'm freaking out, and Kay's like, well, I'm actually also a performer too. Let me give you my intake. I think this note goes here. And then also a major thing was in the live performance, we had no lighting and no sound except an old speaker box. And so what that means is not only were we in this big space, it was this big auditorium, very bare. And I was like, hey, let's purposely just set 7 chairs in, because I didn't expect anyone to show up. But you know what? Every night we had like 90% capacity of those 7 seats. But we had no tech. So it was learning these songs, but also prepping to sing it so the voice can carry throughout the entire auditorium. It was crazy intense. And I just remember myself being thankful for Kay being there every day to not only deal with me, but also, since it's so raw and I'm in the process of mourning while reopening these old wounds, it was translating communications between me, Marshall, and Nick. People coming into a very, I would say it's a very exposed wound. That's what the script was at the time, very exposed. So when they want to question it or the purpose of why this is here, Kay was there to facilitate between us so that there was no hurt feelings, because that evidently did happen for me just because it was so raw. And we were trying to balance how to do this all within a month, all the regular theater stuff, plus come out from it healthy. And we were developing the technique of creating it at the time, the process that we've come up with. And that was an interesting time, because all I could do was focus on the show, and I didn't have to worry about what's going on in the world now and what's happening and the grief everyone in the world is experiencing collectively right now. I could just focus on my own grief and be selfish about it. It's different from that to where we are fast forward 2020. Yeah, we had more time to work on it, and I had more time to sit with the words, so it wasn't so fresh. The wound wasn't so bare and open and raw. And we had this time 4 songs semi like situated. So we were able to take the grant money and devote more than 1 month to this project. But then whilst we were doing that, the world shut down. And so it was this interesting thing where we're still new and navigating, I felt, how to be a team and how to create this show, but we immediately had to switch our plans from having audience members come to a second viewing to a videography. We had to make sure that when I went to Lethbridge for the month to work on the music, that's another thing, I got to actually work with Nick in the studio this time and like be there every day and freak out together, you know, rather than separately. But there was more communication for this freak out time, so it was beautiful. And we just we already knew each other and we already knew the words, so anything added to it just helped evolve it, as Marshall said, to something new. But then we immediately had to switch our plans because of the pandemic and abide by COVID restrictions and make sure the audience is safe as much as we want to be safe. And then in my mind, in some ways, I felt like a release and a relief of revealing these words. I didn't realize it was going to be immortal at the time. Like Marshall's just saying that this is an immortal thing. That went over my head, because my mind was just like, everyone is experiencing some form of grief. So I feel like everyone will get some sort of cathartic from watching this show, some emotion they're able to express with no guilt. And that made me excited to share it. I think I was more scared the first time to share it, because the first time I had family members, and the show is great in the sense that it never names any specific family members. So everyone can see themselves in the characters and the situations. However, my family who come and watch it, they know every single thing I'm talking about. And it's very revealing to them. So in a way, the first show was different for me because I had my one remaining parent who's still alive, love your mom, come to the show and hear things I've never told her before, to her about her. And after that moment, after having that be like my grandparents coming and seeing this, and like people just learning this really raw, painful past from my perspective, nothing else could scare me. So in the second run, I think what was different is we had more tech. We had funding. So people, that's another thing. During a pandemic where our industry is becoming a desert in what it can offer us and what we can, it's become even more competitive and hard because there's just nothing. Like live theater is done, live performances is done. It was a moment for a few months where I felt privileged in the fact that I could pay myself, but also my team members for a moment. And when they signed on for the first Ignite show, it was a passion project. They devoted so much time and hours to not getting paid for what they're worth. So I hope I'm answering the question. I'm trying to cover it because it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a big question.
I guess like the biggest thing is time, resources to be put into the work to give it the respect it deserves. There's something special to me about being in a theater space, like going into Pumphouse and having our green room and the great team at Pumphouse and the tech and being together with everyone, though masked and often 6 feet apart. There is something so grounding about that experience that I feel privileged to have. And the fact that it is immortal and the result of it is immortal is something precious. I think it's something precious during this time that we got to experience together. So I'm grateful. Yeah. There's positives and negatives on either spectrum of the experience. Okay, someone else.
I guess that's me then.
Yeah.
So I guess what changed, Deeds definitely touched on it. We had more time, which helped me a lot as a musician and producer. I kind of work in finer and finer brush strokes as I work through my songs and my work. So the more time I have, the more time I have to incubate, and the more time I have to listen and to hear new things, and when I'm listening in different places or in different environments, different things come to mind, right? So time was helpful, very much so. Another thing that was different for me is I have a new production studio, and the quality and functionality of what I can do in my studio now is a lot better. So it was easier to produce higher quality stuff at a quicker rate, which is nice. The other thing I think that was different was we've all had a lot of time to mature as people and as artists since the last time we did this, and I think that showed in like our delivery and our I guess our fortitude together when we were there. Like it was really nice, like Deed said, to be at that theater. Like we got to go to the Joyce Doolittle Theater, and that was an honor in itself, and the Pumphouse and the giant pumps like literally right behind you. And it was very surreal because of the current conditions of the world, but also so heartwarming and just so lovely to be able to do that. And that was a big difference for me because the last time that we did this, it was all so fast and I was so busy and I couldn't make it up to Calgary to even see the show when it went up. So I really did everything.
Yeah, that's right.
I did everything auxiliary. I didn't get to see the actual show except for some brief recordings, like video recordings of parts of it. And so, yeah, it was a lot different experience for me, and like to actually be able to do the videography portion of things was another big change. And not only did I get to watch the show, but I got to like be very intimately involved in watching it, to the point where I had to be focused and aware of what was happening. And like, I have to commend you, and you both, Deeds and Marshall and Kay, I mean, as well, for the awesome work. You brought a lot of emotion and catharsis out for me. And I'm someone who's been lucky in my life so far to not deal with too much grief and too much loss when it comes to my loved ones. And as we all know, I'm sure that will change as life goes on. But you were able to strike some really deep chords with me too. So it was hard to film sometimes, because I was like welling up and trying to shoot this video, and it was like, I couldn't see the screen, or the monitor or whatever. So yeah, I think she did really great work. You guys all did really great work, and it was a lot of fun to be able to work together like we didn't get to do last time. We didn't get to do that, so that was a big change as well. There's something to be said, and we're all, we're dealing with this pandemic in our own ways, but there's something to be said about human connection and being in the same room with people. And, we have to do our best to, mitigate all the stuff right now. But, that's something that I was really grateful for, to be able to see, my friends and to work together with everyone. And, we were all in like classes together. So it was like, it was a really kind of cool throwback, and like so nostalgic. And it kind of felt like there wasn't like nothing had changed, and we were just doing another school project kind of thing, so that was really neat too. But yeah, I'd say big thing, like Deed said, was time, the ability to deliver with our tech and the funding. And it was lovely to be able to work, to work for this, to get paid a little bit with the grant money, and to be able to put it towards something, meaningful that, like Marshall said, is going to live on for a long time, So yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like you guys have touched on a lot of what I wanted to say, but I just I feel like I really thought that in the first one, and like Deeds, you touched on this, but like in the first one, it was so fresh and so personal. And I think it was really incredible to like work on it from that angle, and then to be able to return to it and look at it in a way of, how can we make this about our community? And to be able to look at it more with a bit more separation, since you had that catharsis in the first one and worked through it, that this time we were able to look at it more critically and think like, this isn't only a personal story of your life, this is something that is really going to resonate with our community as we're experiencing loss in so many forms. And to really change it from a personal experience to a communal experience, I think for me, aside from the obvious like time and having tech and all of that, like those are obviously massive changes, but I think in terms of like personally in my heart, the biggest change in this project was just making it about the community this year.
I think like speaking on that, your point, Kay, and Nick's point, it's something we need to realize, because as much as we speak in form of where we're at now and how we want to view ourselves as professional creators and what we want to do for our communities surrounding us, hopefully creating empathy and moments of connection and everything, we have to realize, like in the first rendition, the first Ignite, Marshall, you said I was an emerging artist, which is true, but you were emerging too. I mean, me, Marshall, and Nick graduated the same year. Kay, I think you're even younger than us, and you graduated after 2017. and you were new. We were all so new and fresh. And there's this certain, for myself, I'm speaking for myself, there's a certain attitude of, who am I to make my mark in this industry yet? What have I done to deserve this moment, that I had to fight against to just even apply for Ignite and reach out to people I trusted, who I've, in my 1 year of professional experience, got to work with in any shape and form. But the thing is, like, even now for this rendition, most of us have only been in the professional industry around 2.5 years as of now, after graduating and getting our degrees. And I think I just wanted to highlight that, because that shows, hopefully, audience members and people that your life and your career is what you make of it in the now. And it's important that we recognize and applaud ourselves for dealing with grief and dealing with coming up with new ways to create and be a supportive team to each other, while creating still a show that's hopefully interesting and good entertainment to watch, you know, like, it's all these things. So I think, like, don't forget how young you all are for accomplishing this. This is different, and yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, and I also want to, like, they're not here, but I want to talk about, even though Kay is, he's a baby in terms of when Kay is emerging as an artist, Dylan, our production assistant, they're still in school. They're not even emerged yet. And they came on to this props. Thank you, Dylan, as our production assistant. And they're now forever, like, a part of our team. But, like, that's, like, just got to put that out there. Just got to put that professional work people giving us, not even fresh out of school.
That was another big change from Ignite to this year, is this year I had a production assistant.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dylan.
Big help. Dylan was a big help. Thank you, Dylan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I move on to the next question, I just want to mention that Taylor Quinn has commented just to say hi, and that they are our biggest fan. So thank you,
Taylor
Taylor.
Twin?
That's very sweet. Taylor Quinn.
Quinn. Okay. I was like, who's the twin? Who's Taylor's twin? Is Taylor a twin of someone? Okay. We have a fan, y'all. It's not just my mom.
So yeah, thank you, Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor, we'll make sure you get your check.
What? Yeah, we're so well off. We paying our fans to love us.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about, like, the differences in filming, but I want to ask the team what their favorite part of switching to filming was, and what their least favorite part of switching to filming was. And just,
me
like,
first.
the challenges there. Yeah, go ahead.
My favorite part is when every single person told me, hey, if you mess up now, we can just do another take. That's my absolute most favorite part. Whew. So I don't have to memorize the whole 1 hour and be scared of just having one shot on a live stage to do it. Most favorite part. My least favorite part, when I messed up and we had to continue taking shots to make up for my mess up. And that just, it was a long day. And I'm just kidding. My least favorite part was the shoes I chose to wear. You're choosing high heels for a full day of filming.
But they looked so good.
They do. They do be looking good. But I think, like, insider fact, I don't know if I should be revealing this, but Marshall, the director, specifically put in a scene where I'm sitting so that I could get off my feet for a few hours. Oh, yeah.
That's just good directing.
Yeah, I think that answers your question for me. That's like,
yeah.
My turn, Marshall. Who do you want to go?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. I would say that my favorite part about filming it was I don't know. I'd say honestly, getting to see the show so intimately and getting to watch it like, and it's just like raw form. It was like being like one audience member in like a one man show or one woman show, you know. It was very intimate and raw. It was really cool. So I really liked that. The part that I disliked the most about filming it was when my computer crashed the night after we shot it, and I was trying to edit it for everyone to have it out the week of. That was my least favorite part about the whole thing. So, but yeah, otherwise I had a lot of fun. Honestly, it was just a lot of fun to put it all together and like work with everybody in a kind of a new context, but like we're all still working in the theater, but we're kind of putting something new together in the theater, which was kind of fun. It was like I said, it was a little bit like we were doing a class project again. It was just like a new kind of thing, you know, together. And like Deed said, we all graduated together. It was just like we got the band back together, man. You know, that's what it felt like. So yeah, I just had a lot of fun. I just really didn't like that my laptop crashed. Yeah, or the next morning. Yeah, it was really rough. So sorry about the delay, everyone, but that's what happened.
Yeah.
Marshall.
I would say, yeah, I think my favorite part about getting to do it on film and stuff was that we really did get to see, like, I felt like last time we spent a lot of time learning about like the context of everything, of all of the stories that are involved and stuff, whereas I feel like this time we focused more on going back to what you said, Kay, about like how can we kind of like translate this to, you know, allow folks to kind of see themselves in the show and stuff. And so I think being able to kind of shift the focus from this is one human story and make it more about like this is a story that a lot of folks can you know, find some way to connect with and stuff, and really picking it apart so that we really do earn those really small intimate shots. Getting to kind of like, I mean, first of all, getting to direct for film, which is like totally new for me. I've done a lot of like stage work and stuff, but having to, I think, come up with like, you know, a shot list. When would I have ever done that? So like things like that, a lot of the new challenges of doing into film, that was one of the things that I really enjoyed. I think the least favorite parts, I think, was all the takes that we did as well. I think I come from, you know, obviously the theater where it's like, get off book, know your lines, know your blocking, do this, do that, know where you got to be. And so I think like when you kind of like reintroduce film and stuff, there's that leeway there, which was like something that I kind of had to get over, in that like I'm sort of like in my head, even if I'm watching a piece that I stage and stuff, I'm always like, okay, so let's watch to like see like this is out of place, or this is not where it should be, or this line was here or whatever. So having to go from not having it be one like straight through thing, and it being actually about the smaller moments that connect everything. I felt like in a normal theater show, it's all about like this is the train ride that you kind of go on, whereas I felt like in this process it was more about like it's kind of all this spider web and stuff, and we got a chance to kind of like see the spider webs connect somewhere in the middle, as opposed to seeing one straight through line and stuff. And so it was an excellent challenge to kind of get over, I think, the perfection that I think I instill on, you know, a live show.
Right. Next time, Marshall, we'll just need more cameras, then we could do it all.
Oh yeah, 4 shots from one camera.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
we'll
all
just need more
beautifully
cameras.
shot.
We'll set it all up. We'll have 4
I
operators.
think the most used word you had, Marshall, that day was continuity. Continuity.
Goodness gracious, yes.
I feel like for me, the best part was that when I hung my lights, I knew that no one would be looking at the grid and they didn't have to be the neatest lights in the world. If there was a cable hanging down like 6 inches, it didn't matter. And I think just because I mean, don't get me wrong, scheduling for film is a whole other beast, but I think being able to have that flexibility of like, oh, we need to take a break right now because this happened. Okay, we'll take a break right now. As opposed to like, oh, this happened in the middle of a show. Well, I guess I'll run back there and try and fix it and run back in time for the next cue. So I think having, not having the stress of everything needing to continue exactly on time was nice for me.
For our viewers who don't know theater, I think Kay's talking about managing the light board and the tech of it all. And in case you don't know, those are managed by people. All the magic you see on a stage is managed by a person making sure that happens at the exact word. For the audience who don't know.
And there have been times in like previous live shows that I've worked on that like something happens backstage and I have ran from the booth, fixed the problem, ran back to the booth with my like the lightest footsteps as I'm trying to run as fast as I can in time for my next cue. And as much as I miss live theater, it's not that specifically that I miss. But that brings me to my least favorite part of filming is that as a stage manager and a show tech, my favorite part of running shows is watching the audience react to certain parts. And there's always parts of a show that like the audience always reacts differently to. And I love seeing how each audience reacts and just like the difference in energy. And I really missed that when we were filming. I did definitely still get some from Nick and Marshall, but we also, you know, had to be quiet because we were filming. So yeah, I
was sniffling so like I couldn't. I was just leaking and I couldn't like sniffle because the mics were all on.
Just gotta let it drip.
As the performer, I was like, for me, the moments where there's a splash of dark humor, just having silence after the joke of it all, I was like, is this doing anything? And then I continued, I'm like, no, be in the moment, be in your feels, be in the moment. And then I think as exhausted as I was and everything, what I appreciated is after every single take, Nick in tears, Kay yelling down from the booth, and Marshall being like everyone was giving me all the audience, like, I guess, validation I need to know that I did something there. And then for Dylan, oh, bless Dylan's soul, because Dylan was new to the team, I went up to Dylan and I'm like, did you like that one? Did you like it? What about this one? How's this? And Dylan's like, I'm in tears, but I'm trying to hold back, and I'm like trying to get validation. So anyways, thank you all for being so extra with me in between takes. That was amazing and needed.
Short bursts of audience participation.
I think I've gotten so many standing ovations from you three. Like just to, like after every song, it's always Marshall doing a comment like, "You need to write me a song, Deidre." And I'm like, yes, definitely.
Okay, I have one more question for everybody, and we're getting close to 9. So if anyone has any questions, you better comment them quick.
Oh yeah, questions from people watching. Please ask any of the team members questions.
So my last group question, first of all, is what is like a challenge or just like a part of your role that like greatly affects your work, but you don't think people think about or would surprise people? Because I feel like just working in theater, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that anyone who doesn't work in theater would just like not know about. And I just kind of want to shine a light on those. So yeah, just a part of your role that you think would surprise people that don't work in theater or people don't know about.
I think going back to what you said about continuity, I think like we spent a lot of time trying to figure out like where are the hands? Where are the hands going to be in this spot? And so like having to like when you do theater work, it's different every single night, and your arms like they're going to change. It's going to be a thing where like your arms aren't going to be doing the same thing every single show and stuff. And I felt like with this one, because we were doing different angles and like shots and all of this stuff, like everything had to be the exact same. And so having to like have that extra eye of like, okay, so like her hand was doing this then, so it needs to still be doing that for this part there. And then like thinking about, or like the stress of like, you know, in one shot having the arms crossed, or the other shot, you know, the arms are out, you know. And so like it's just like it's that extra step of having to worry about, okay, I have to like really worry about what is the camera watching. And that's what I meant earlier about how like the camera, like it sees everything. You can't hide anything from it's just yeah.
As a director, Marshall, what's one thing that's hard about the pre-work you have to do before we even get to the rehearsals that maybe people don't know about? What's something?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is really about analyzing the script. I felt like when we did it the first time, it was all about like, okay, let me kind of like learn as much from the playwright about the words and stuff. Whereas I felt like this time it was more about like, how can we analyze the script and make it less about like, well, this was lived experience, and more about like, well, what is this part of the story trying to say? What are we trying to do in this part? Because it is long, you know, it is one human talking throughout the entire thing, and not necessarily going in between, you know, different characters and stuff. It's really about one human and stuff. And so trying to analyze how to bring out the action from one human saying what, like 12 long 10 font pages and stuff. Like it's but honestly, that's the fun of it, you know. It is an extra layer and stuff, but it really is like putting together this puzzle on your own, and then kind of getting to like share that with the rest of the room. And that's one of my favorite things about getting to direct a new show, or about getting to workshop a script, or really pick apart anything. It really is about, you know, taking this puzzle and throwing it on the ground, and then slowly picking it up and putting it all back in its place and stuff. Getting to be the primary interpreter of a text, getting to kind of like understand what it's doing to me and how I want others to see what it's doing to me, based on how it's shown throughout the scenes and throughout the actor work and stuff.
Deidre, Nick?
Oh. Yeah, I'll go, I guess. I would say that one thing that people might not know about this one, at least for the videography side of things, was in order to get the sound the way that it was, there was 7 different inputs that we used, and we used 5 microphones and 2 lavalier packs. One of the microphones was from the board, and there's a feed from the board as well. So it was quite an extensive audio production to be able to get it all together, which was a lot of fun to edit. And then the other thing too, I think that like Marshall touched on, was editing the actual physicality of things. Like you guys, Marshall and Deeds, you guys did a really good job of keeping that pretty consistent. Like there were moments in the editing process where it wasn't exactly the same, but like you have to really realize that it's like word for word movement that is on point for most of these filming moments. And then there's only these, like, you know, the hand still goes up, but it goes up on the and instead of before the and. It's little things like that you can't really cut and edit between if you're being really, really careful. So Deeds and Marshall did a really good job of matching a lot of the movement, and Deeds especially did a really good job of staying very true to that choreography as best as she could, so that from our 4 angles that we got from this piece, really 2 or 3 of which could be used during the songs in particular, they were pretty well matched. So that I commend both of you guys a lot, and especially Deeds for that performance. So good work. Yeah.
Mhm. What was the question again?
Are there any aspects of your role on this show that you feel like the general public wouldn't know about or would be surprised to hear?
I talked a lot about myself as a performer and creator in the duration of from Ignite till now. I think one aspect people don't realize is the amount of work that goes into producing a show in any form. I thought in my naivete, I thought that when I took on producing a show with the amount of this grant, which was vastly 10 times more than the amount Ignite was able to give us for our first rendition, I thought, this will only get easier because I have all the time in the world. Here's the thing though, in the moments where I'm not, I try and separate myself by putting on different hats. So I have the friend hat because I'm friends with all these glorious people here in this team. But then I have the writer hat and the performer hat, all that are big hats to fill. But then there was the production hat, which I don't think I ever took off. I tried. It was very hard. It was every day for the last, since we got approved for the grant, which I think was briefly before the world shut down in March. From that day, every day for 24 hours a day, I did work as a producer. And that's a lot of time and energy. It takes a lot of energy to meet with people. And Kay took on the hat as my co-producer essentially. So we were having, I don't think we ever set up the appropriate boundaries that we should have had, that we were always in communication and talking about the show and having to come up with meetings, plans, financials. Even after this talkback, our work, me and Kay's work, isn't done for this specific project. I think we have about a week and a half more of work of post-production to put everything in order to prove how we use the grant and everything. And I'd never done that before. I don't think I was ever taught that in university. It's an extreme learning curve, and I'm not by any means not grateful for the fact that I have the opportunity to learn these new skills. It's just, I never knew what went behind the word producer or production. I knew what it meant to sort of be a creator and an actor in a production. I never knew the amount of admin work that goes behind anything prior to doing this. And yeah, and that's just on trying to do your best with what you know and Google things that you don't understand or don't know. And part of being the producer is I now get to see what it means to pay people for their work and the amount of time and effort they need, and what they should really be paid. Because I feel like I underpaid everyone, even with this grant that's 10 times more. I feel like everyone was underpaid for the amount of work they gave to the project. So that really puts to me in a frame of mind of what each role and what my team's value is, what their worth is, that they bring into it, that they deserve to be paid. And in some ways that I think Kay knows this more. A lot of the ways I got upset with myself for not being able to provide those necessary funds that everyone deserved.
Did great deeds. Don't worry about it.
It'll
You're good.
keep getting better with more practice. But I actually have a question for everyone alongside this that I'm curious about. Because I've talked about this so many times about my own interpretation of this new process we've developed of dealing with pieces that involve traumatic work and really putting out good work whilst keeping ourselves safe and everything. Was there any difficult times? I asked this to my team members, difficult times in the process from Ignite to now that you want to speak on, and how did you evolve in your own way and your own artistic practice? Was this, I don't know if I'm asking the question right, but I'm just curious as to what everyone's opinion is on this process we've developed that, while not similar to previous processes known to the theater world, I think is in some ways new and different, because everyone here, aside from the professional relationships I have with all of you, are close personal friends, you, Marshall, especially, that have known me for the last 5 or 6 years since I set up. You just know me. You know me as a person. You're my friends. So how did you deal with separating that friendship and looking at me and being like, let's not make this project boring, especially when it's about my own personal trauma and stories. So I'm just curious about your guys's outlook on all that and anything you've evolved or gained or learned. I don't know. Yeah.
I guess I could go quick on that. We have a couple of questions from other people, so I want to make sure we get to those before it's too late. But for me, I would say that just watching you take this journey, Deeds, is like it's shown a lot of determination and perseverance, and you know, like I haven't done what you've done with this show before. Like I haven't gone out and got a grant. I haven't developed a show, a one-person show. So like I commend you for like pioneering that amongst us for sure. I mean, Marshall, you've done kind of one-person shows before to some extent. I don't know if anything this long. Have you done an hour-long thing? Yeah. Okay. So then you guys
His
more.
spirit lives.
Yeah, but I haven't been able to see it though. Anyways, I'm sorry about that, Marshall, and I wish I had.
No, of course not.
But yeah, so you're both seasoned more in that avenue, which is something that I commend you both for, I guess. And I've learned a lot about like building and continuing a project. I've learned something about like maintaining my storage and my hard drives for projects to be found later on, and how to, you know, make sure that those things, because we maintained our files. It was a little tricky at first, but we did maintain our files across like a whole other computer system and you know, many years different. So it was good to be able to do that and learn to maintain that. And then just, you know, learning a whole new system with the process. It was a great way for me to, you know, workshop my system that I just got and was able to use. So that was a couple of things that I learned. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think like as someone, as you said, like we've been friends for quite some time and stuff, and I've heard a lot of these stories on the bus or, you know, on the couch, like it, but I think like the biggest thing that I have to separate myself, I think like friend Marshall, while listening to these stories and hearing some of the new ones that made it into the play, there's like friend Marshall that's like, okay, like who do I need to get, like who is being rude to my friend, and less about that and more like, okay, this is you know, some cheese me that we have to like reveal on stage and stuff. But I mean, it's all in the process, I think, of wearing different hats as an artist, as a friend, as a human.
Okay, you can answer my question in a mix with the previous question that I just realized I completely steamrolled you. You
Okay.
didn't even get to answer that one.
I think for things people don't necessarily realize, I didn't think of an answer to my own question. Geez. I think something I didn't realize is also how much work a producer does. Like, oh dear Lord, just a shout out to every producer I've ever worked with. I also I've been that stage manager before where I am texting the producer every single day. Joshua Dalladoni, love you, you know this.
We
So
stan.
we do stand. So I've been that stage manager who's constantly asking the producer things, and then I was doing both, and I was like, oh, I have to do the things I ask about. Oh geez, okay. And I think how much work a producer does is a big one. And I think something people don't necessarily realize with stage management is the level of minutia of you have to think of every single thing before it happens. I've grown a lot as a stage manager since the first production. And I think this time I was more on the ball of Deidre would ask me something and I'd be already dealt with. So just pre-planning for potential things that might come up is a big thing that goes into stage managing that I think
added the pandemic rules on top of that and the ever-changing.
Yeah. Yes,
Oh my goodness.
absolutely. So yeah, that's something people don't necessarily realize. And I think then with this project, I'm interpreting your question in a little bit of a different way. And I just in just how I was thinking about it. And I think for me, something that was difficult with this one in particular was just feeling that exhaustion from just living in a global pandemic and being torn between I'm so lucky to be working on this and I'm so grateful to be working on this, and balancing that with just having no motivation to do anything because it was just constant contingency planning of well, we'll see if we can have an audience. Maybe we could have a partial audience and partial online. Maybe we, you know what I mean? Just all of the contingency planning. So managing, keeping up my energy and reminding myself how lucky I am to be working on this show while also trying not to completely drain my energy with just exhaustion from the world. I think was an interesting challenge that there's no way I could have experienced that challenge in any other project. This is the only chance I had to learn that and learn how to navigate that.
I think that's the guilt that I feel a lot of people are struggling with, to not just, and that's kind of funny because the whole point of the show is to be not have any shame with what you feel at that moment, even if it's not the most positive, upbeat, energetic. But I'm not telling you, Kate, because obviously you've managed it and we're evolving even today, doing this project together. I try and switch the word lucky to deserving, earned. You've earned the right to be a part of this project. So if all of you have, so if at some point you're just not feeling it and you're sad, the same kindness you afford me to let you know that I'm just not feeling good right now, you deserve that just as much. Because it's extremely, even is the luck of being in a show, and we call it a show, but the content itself is very triggering. So that with everything, just thank y'all for but you deserve it. But like as Nick was saying, people are actually asking us questions.
Yes.
Oh,
Liz has asked us, any future plans for the show and any secrets you can share? Seeds?
I mean, I'm surrounded by wood, so I don't think I'll jinx myself. I'll just knock on it a few times. For this show, no future plans as of now. Any any money we receive from the album and donations is going into an account that we will leave for when we want to take this to fringe shows, if and when the world opens up. I mean, we have footage now, so if say someone, schools, trigger warnings, if say someone wants to show this footage in a festival, like I was thinking, what does it mean? Is there any sections in film festivals for filmed live work in theater? I don't know. That's something to look into if the world continues to remain shut down. But for this show specifically, the show and the album is complete, so that anytime we dust it off and bring it back for either a film festival, if we ever can get into those, or fringe shows, that's the aim of this specific show now, is to actually hopefully one day perform it live again. And then super secret, I think I touched on this in previous things, but I should stop assuming that everyone watches. We have so many fans that watch every single interview I ever do, but this show is actually the first of a trilogy. So Ghost Return to Mourning has 2 yet to be born shows following the same formula, hopefully coming to birth. So the next thing is, currently right now, I'm writing a grant for the creation and video production of a second sister show. And that one is actually called, wait for it, I'm so clever, Ghost, Ruminating, Amusing. And because like, you know, amusing is a thought, but also amusing because it's amusing. And so I'm currently writing a grant where we could essentially do what we did for this show and have a year to write a show with a mini album partnered with it again. For the second. And that's hopefully a 2021 dream that will either happen or won't happen, dependent on this grant. So, yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I mean, yo, go to iTunes and download the album and donate, and then we'll have like we'll bring this show back. Yeah.
If any millionaires want to donate, we won't rely on a grant, just saying.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What's 10% of a million? I don't know. We just need 1%.
100,000.
More than I make in a year. Great. So we have then Tanya has a question for each of us. What do you feel will be or is your biggest takeaway from creating this show?
Short and sweet. Take up space. Let others take up space. Take up your own space. Share space.
Ooh, nice. I like it. I would say for myself, if I'm going to do live videography, I'd like more cameras at a time, just because it lends to that realism and that like continuity that Marshall is so concerned with.
Damn directors.
From another thing, I think that was a big takeaway for me was that these processes are continuous, and shows are kind of like living, breathing things that, just like my music, even when I release a single, I'm like, I could keep working on it for years, you know, like there's always something else there. And you do have to let it go at some point and kind of let it out of the pen. But especially theater shows like this end up being kind of continuous development processes, and they evolve over time. And if there's 2 more pieces to this series, then you know, it's far from over. It's just begun, really. So I think that I took away kind of a perception of how shows can evolve and how theater can not just live in one production, but can continue into others and grow like an entity. So that was really neat. I think that's one of my bigger takeaways.
These?
Oh, okay, me first. Okay. I think my biggest takeaway is it kind of walks alongside Marshall's of taking up space, but choose a team that you can trust, and then have the integrity to let go and let those team members fulfill their roles, and have confidence that no matter what is released, it will be something that, as much as it may be one person's story for now, reflects the entire team's perspective on life and the content of the show. So my biggest takeaway was I enjoy working with people who are vastly different from each other. And as we continue to grow this team, as we've added on Dylan, thank you for joining us. Dylan, this whole these team members, these people are actually already given me the intent that any future shows, they will come back and fulfill their roles for any future shows with this trilogy. So as I continue to expand the team, that works under Ghost and everything, I'm going to continue trying to reach out to diverse communities, get representation from multiple different perspectives, and then just have the trust to release my traumas to them to be created into something fun. That's my biggest takeaway. Yeah. Really, just all I can say. Yeah, know your team and know their worth.
I think
Okay.
for me, my takeaway is exceptionally self-centered, but I think I learned that my capacity is more than I thought it was. Like, to be exhausted from a pandemic and still be able to, like, Frankie, to still be able to, like, book a space and like manage a budget and like manage social media and release, like get the album released, and like work as a designer and as a stage manager on top of that. I think there were definitely points in which I felt like I was just like shitting the bed, pardon my language, and like
We can swear.
And like just I felt like I was just kind of falling apart on my roles, but we did film in a theater and we didn't go over budget, and the album is on iTunes. So I think just for me, this was like just a particularly challenging show with the combination of the world and my amount of hats. So yeah, I think I learned a lot about my capacity to just keep going.
Yay. Any more questions?
That's all the questions, but I wanted to share a comment from Tanya. She said, the subject is such a difficult one for so many people and extremely emotional, and you all definitely did the show justice. I believe the show has helped Deidre a lot with her own healing process, and you all are a huge part of that. I hope the show continues on and can help many others with dealing with their own grief and help to not make it so taboo to be open about and dealt with.
For anyone who doesn't know, that's my one parent still alive talking to us right now. So it was also her birthday the other day. So
Happy birthday, Tanya.
Scorpio.
I know. Jeez.
Great statement.
I forget how old
Thank
she is.
How young she is.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. We're forever growing younger.
Especially Scorpios, I swear to God.
Something like I just want like I know we're wrapping up, going towards the end, but I leave this time for my team members. If you have a question or a curiosity you want to pose to another opposing team member, let's do it.
I'll
Starting.
text you. I'll text all of you.
I like the term opposing team member. It makes me feel like we're in a battle royale.
Well, I was just trying to, what's the way to say, hey, don't ask yourself a question that you already know the answer to? My question is for everyone again, and this might be a cheat question, but is there a project you're currently working on that you want to promote? What is it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm the lighting designer. We're like in early stages because it's happening in February. So I'm the lighting designer for This Random World with Fire Exit Theater. So if you haven't forgotten by February, check it out. The design stuff is all sounding really, really cool in the early stages. So can't speak for anything outside of that because rehearsals haven't started, but it's gonna look cool at least. It's gonna sound cool.
Marshall.
I'm doing 2 holiday shows of the same story. One is set in London 1843 and one is set in the city in 2020. And they'll be coming out in the next week.
What are they called?
Christmas Carol.
Okay, just had to. Nick?
For myself, I recently was on set for a pilot television show I was the lead on, so I'm looking forward to sharing more news about that when that comes out. It was very exciting, and I just released a new single recently. You can check it out on Spotify myself. It's called Cold Room by Nick Boley. On all the different streamings and YouTubes and iTunes and all that kind of stuff. And otherwise, just go check out my YouTube channel. I've got new films and new productions and commercials and all kinds of stuff coming up all the time. My production company is HatChap Productions, one word, because we all wear so many hats. And yeah, if you want to go check out my stuff on YouTube, give me a follow, give me a subscribe, and I hope to keep up with the new stuff. Yeah.
I got nothing for y'all. I'm taking a break after this one. Yeah. Any questions y'all want to ask each other?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'll just send
I already
everyone a
asked.
text.
It was a nice thought, Deidre. It was a nice thought. me just being curious of everyone's mind and their inner workings. That's what that was.
I asked y'all so many questions.
You
But I do want to say before we go, just like to a big thank you to everyone who has supported us through Ignite, through the Arts of Hearts reading, through all of this. Your support means a lot to us, and we're very lucky to have such supportive people behind the show. And thank you again to everyone who has donated. If you enjoyed the show, please consider donating so that we can rely a little bit less on grants, just a little bit, especially if you're a millionaire. But we do accept money from non-millionaires as well.
I think Calgary has like the highest per capita millionaires living in the city.
Listen, if you know any like rich oil CEOs, just send them the link.
Or rich artist CEOs. There's rich artists.
We're not thinking about where you got your money from. We'll just put it to a greater use for the public.
Chiropractors. That's
people are slowly redacting their donations as we continue talking about donations. I also, I want to thank everyone for participating, from the folks at Ignite 2019 Provocation Series, including the fellow artists who were with me and some of the team members at the workshops, just trying to create stuff. I want to thank National Theatre School for the Art Apart program, where they just gave new life to the scripture amidst the pandemic. I want to thank Words in Progress and Native Calgarian for inviting me on their specific shows. Native Calgarian, a podcast. Words in Progress is a video series that will be making a return, I am told, maybe sometime in the future. Thank you to the lovely folks from those projects for just, I guess, seeing me as a creator and promoting our work. I want to thank everyone who has decided to like and follow our Facebook page. I know it's been confusing. We have a group and now we have a Facebook page. And Mimaja Tanya was like, why do you have 30 groups for this one show? It's not, we're learning. It's a process. So all 200 and I think 22 of you that are currently following us on this page, oh, bless you, bless your soul. Feel free, if you want to purchase the album but are having troubles because you don't have iTunes or Apple Music, feel free to email us. I'm sure there's something we could work out that we'd be willing to. Here's the thing, we said the show ends yesterday or 2 days ago. Spoiler alert for everyone watching, I'm gonna keep it up longer, because so if you still want to see it or you haven't seen it, go to the link. It's gonna be there until I feel like, that's fine. No spoiler alerts whatsoever in the show, so that's just my own joy. So if you still haven't seen it and you want to see it and know we've been talking about this entire evening, please go and see it. Also,
pay-per-view from now on.
Oh, yeah.
If you watch it after it closes, you've got to send a donation. That's the rule.
You have to send a deposit if you want the new code. No, we're not that bougie. Also, for my lovely team members who just shared with you some of their works, what we're going to be doing in the next week is posting whenever we get links, and including in February, we'll keep you updated on the process of the team members and any shows they're doing, or I happen to be taking a part of any projects we're doing. I'll continuously feed the Facebook page links so that you can keep up to date with the whole team up until when we bring in, and we're just going to say that when we receive the grants for the second show, you'll also be kept up to date on that process and everything. I believe I've covered everything. I just thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks guys. Appreciate all that you've done and all the work you've all put in. I really appreciate your energy in this one. So good job.
Yeah, thanks for bringing us all together, and most of all, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
Yeah, thanks, Deeds.
Oh, I was like, who y'all thinking? One more thing, audience members. If you want to share your journey with me or the team members, feel free. We say it's a letter to death within the show. If you want to write a letter and notes and just know that someone's read it, you can also email that to our email.
And fun fact, we had, when we were live in person, we had the option for audience members to write their own letters to death. We had pens and papers at the theater. And so the letters that you saw hanging in this production were actually the letters that people gave to us last time that have helped us create the show, and we wanted to honor that and keep them in the set.
For sure.
All I say is, on top of that honoring, if you wish for it to remain anonymous, or if you want to put a little blurb at the end of your letter saying, feel free to print this off and attach it to future renditions of the show and future sets to join the community that is now a part of this show forever until the end of the world. Let us know. But if you want it to remain anonymous and just something that we read from you, also put that in there. We'll respect it either way. Yeah.
Thank you all so much. I think we're signing off. So
Yeah.
thank you for joining us for this talkback. Thank you so much for your questions and your support. And you will be hearing from us again.
Nah.
Beautiful. Be
Thanks.
safe. Stay beautimous.
Talk about-
Bye.